everybody. This is Sam, the History Man, back with part 2 of our war diary for the USS Bullard DD-660, which is part of our profile of Destroyer Division 96. And I want to remind you very quickly, if you haven't done so, please be sure to click the like and subscribe button, because we want to be able to get these destroyer stories out to as many people as we can, or at least those who are interested in this sort of thing like we are, right? Anyway, let's get back into it. The war diary for the USS Bullard will be starting with February the 19th, 1945. From February the 19th until the 23rd, we were en route to Pearl Harbor. And of course, we arrived there on the 24th. On the 27th, we were underway training with Desron 48. Now, Desron 48 is the destroyer squadron, which Destroyer Division 96 is a part of. Anyway, we were underway training with Desron 48 in the Hawaii area, returned with Desron 48 to Pearl Harbor on the afternoon of March the 2nd. From March the 3rd until March the 12th, we were en route to Ulithi Atoll in the Caroline Islands with Task Group 12.2. We conducted firing exercises, IFF and radar tracking drills with task group carrier planes en route. We arrived in Ulithi on the morning of March the 13th. We had a YG homing gear for aircraft installed during the night by the USS Piedmont. And if you're not familiar with a YG homing gear, it is basically a homing beacon that they would use to guide planes in back to the ships if the fleet had to suddenly change course for some reason, or bad weather, or if the equipment on the plane had been damaged, perhaps during battle. They could use this gear, and it used basically a Morse code type of signal that would help guide the planes back to the ship. So that's what a YG homing gear is. On March the 14th through the 17th, we were en route to the combat area off of the Japanese Empire with Task Force 58 to support carrier strikes and shore bombardments preliminary to the conquest and occupation of Okinawa Shima. We conducted training exercises while en route. From March 18th until March the 31st, during this period, the USS Bullard operated with Task Force 58 south of Kyushu and Shikoku and the east of Okinawa Shima, supporting carrier strikes and shore bombardments preceding the landings on Okinawa on April the 1st, 1945. The highlights of this phase for the Bullard were as follows. On March the 18th, we had almost continuous radar contact with enemy aircraft from 0300. Opened fire on 5 separate Japanese aircraft during the day, shooting down one Betty in flames close aboard at 0550, with the USS Kidd on scouting line about 60 miles south of Shikoku. On March the 19th, with the USS Kidd, we approached within 11 miles of Murutosaki, Shikoku. During the early morning twilight, we fired on a single enemy aircraft which did not attack. At 17:15, we received orders to join Cruiser Division 16, screening the damaged USS Franklin during its retirement southward. We joined this group at 20:39 and went alongside the Franklin at 23:15 to fight fires. We remained close aboard until 02:15, hitting the carrier at one time and sustaining superficial damage, using as many as 18 hoses. The Bullard managed to extinguish large fires on the Franklin's fantail and hangar deck despite difficult conditions. On March the 24th, with Task Group 59.7 for bombardment of Kotakashima and the southeastern shore of Okinawashima, we screened battleships during this bombardment. On March the 26th, we were on radar picket line with Destroyer Division 96, rejoined Task Group 58.3 at dusk. Night fighters were shot down, and we shot down a Betty attempting to attack the formation, and another Jap plane retired without attacking. On March the 27th, again on picket line with Destroyer Division 96, the Bullard and the USS Black in one station, USS Chauncey and USS Kidd on the other. At 06:27, a bandit flew out of the overcast and dropped a bomb close aboard the Black. He escaped our fire. A few minutes later, USS Chauncey reported splashing a Zeke. On March the 29th, on picket line with Destroyer Division 96, our Combat Air Patrol shot down a Jap plane at 07:21. We rejoined Task Force 58.3 in the afternoon. A single plane approaching the formation was disposed of by Combat Air Patrol. From April the 1st until May the 28th, 1945, we were operating with Task Force 58, later Task Force 38, in support of the conquest and occupation of Okinawashima. This vessel's normal job is with Destroyer Division 96 as a radar picket to the north of Task Force 58, operating 50 to 100 miles northeast of Okinawa. The highlights of the operation for the Bullard were as follows. On April the 3rd, we were on picket line with Destroyer Division 96. At 17:20, a Tony attacked the formation, dropped a bomb close aboard the USS Black, and escaped undamaged. At 18:24, the Combat Air Patrol destroyed a bandit 13 miles away. April 6th, on picket line with Destroyer Division 96, during the day, many contacts were made on enemy planes. At 05:32, fired on an enemy plane which closed to 5,000 yards before retiring. At 05:48, a Jap plane strafed the USS Black without damage to the Black. At 1100, our Combat Air Patrol splashed an enemy plane 5 miles to the west. At 12:59, 3 suicide planes attacked Destroyer Division 50, operating about 10 miles away, and were destroyed without damage to the ships. At 1500, we made contact on a large group of bogies 18 miles to the north and closing. When our Combat Air Patrol closed to within 3 miles, the Japs jettisoned their bombs and fled. During the day, Division 1 of the Combat Air Patrol, controlled by the Bullard, got 2 Jap planes. 6 planes were splashed by the Combat Air Patrol, controlled by the nearby Sigsbee. April 7th. On picket line with Destroyer Division 96, this was another busy day with the Jap Air Force. Combat Air Patrol, controlled by the USS Sigsbee, operated nearby with Destroyer Division 50. They splashed a Zeke 17 miles in distance. Between 11:50 and 16:05, 18 separate radar contacts were made on enemy planes approaching our formation, usually singly or in pairs. Carrier Task Force 58 reported that the enemy Air Force had been instructed to wipe out the destroyer picket line. Our Combat Air Patrol was equal to the job, destroying all 14 Jap planes during this period, and no Jap plane approached within gunfire range of our group. April 11th, on picket line with Destroyer Division 96. Commencing at 11:25, the enemy made a large-scale, well-coordinated air attack on ships of Task Force 58. At 13:45, they made contact on about 10 enemy planes at 33 miles. They were sighted by Combat Air Patrol at 10 miles. These planes split into 3 groups and continued to close at a low altitude. At 13:53, one plane crash-dived the U.S. Black but missed close astern. 4 minutes later, another suicide plane attacked this vessel, crashing into the sea about 20 feet off of our starboard quarter. The plane's left wing hit the deck on the port side of the after doghouse, but with the plane in a wing over, this caused only slight damage. This pilot pressed home his attack despite continuing hits from our gunfire. At 14:10, a Jap attacked the Chauncey with a bomb that missed, then continued low on a glide and crashed into the Kidd, causing much damage in the vicinity of the number 1 fire room. Remaining ships of the division screened the Kidd back to Task Group 58.3. Enemy planes continued the attack throughout the rest of the day and night. They were taken under fire, and screening destroyers splashed 1 at 23:24. On April 12th, at night, fighters splashed 1 Jap plane at 05:51. Departed Task Group 58.3 with Destroyer Division 96 for picket line. At 03:45, enemy planes circled the group at high altitude during the morning and employed radar countermeasures. Many contacts were made during the afternoon. One group of 5 Zeeks attempted to attack the picket line, but our Combat Air Patrol splashed all 5. Rejoined Task Group 58 at dusk. Enemy planes continued the attack during the darkness. At 23:51, one bandit was shot down in flames. April the 15th. Enemy planes continued their attacks until daylight. We departed with Destroyer Division 96 for picket line duty at 03:47. Continuous contact was made with enemy planes attacking Task Force 58 throughout the day. Our Combat Air Patrol got an even dozen Jap planes. At 09:06, we made contact on 5 enemy fighters approaching our group from 23 miles. The Combat Air Patrol got 3, but the other 2 made suicide dives, one crashing close aboard this vessel, another exploding near the USS Black. Our miss was by about 20 yards to the starboard of the bridge structure. The Francis was shot down by ships of Task Group 58.3 as we rejoined the group at dusk. The enemy continued the attacking during the night. On April 17th, we were on picket line duty. At 08:26, made contact with a large group of enemy planes. Our Combat Air Patrol destroyed 4 of these and dispersed the rest, which made individual attacks on ships of Task Force 58. At 09:15, a HAP dropped a bomb near the Chauncey and headed away, badly damaged by gunfire. At 09:23, another HAP dropped a bomb about 200 yards from the Bullard and was observed smoking low on the water. At 09:43, an enemy plane obtained a near miss on the Benham and was shot down while encircling over the Bullard. On April the 19th, we bombarded southeastern Okinawa with Task Group 58.7. On April the 21st, the enemy used heckling tactics during the hours before dawn and lost 2 planes to night fighters. These tactics were resumed in the evening, and night fighters got 1 Betty just before midnight. April 22nd, hecklers continued their work. 2 Bettys were shot down by night fighters before dawn when the Bullard arrived on picket line. At 13:43, we fired on a high-flying Mert, which was later splashed, along with another of the same type by our combat air patrol. At 16:15, received the word that a large group of enemy planes had been sighted to the north. We made radar contact a few minutes later. Combat Air Patrol intercepted and shot down 3 Tonys. Many contacts were made until dusk, but no planes closed our formation. On April 27th, hecklers were near the formation just before midnight. Our ship's fire chased one off, and the others cleared without attacking. April 28th, we were on picket line duty. Made contacts throughout the morning, but enemy planes did not come within gun range. After dark, ships of 58.3 fired on an enemy plane closing from the north. This plane and 2 others retired without making a successful attack, due largely to an effective smokescreen. April 29th, from 1700 until 1800, enemy planes attacked, losing 7 planes to the Combat Air Patrol. April 30th, Combat Air Patrol got 2 planes just after midnight, and the enemy continued to heckle until dawn. Combat Air Patrol shot down another Jap at 0800. On May the 4th, night fighters got 3 Japs before dawn. At 0830, they made contact on a large group of enemy planes to the west en route to Okinawa. May 11th, hecklers were active today in our group. Before dawn, we proceeded to the picket line. Combat Air Patrol got 2 Tonys at 0930, but a 3rd suicide plane dived on the USS Lind, missing her by about 100 yards. Combat Air Patrol got another Zeke a few minutes later. Task Group 58.3 was also under attack. The USS Bunker Hill was heavily damaged. May 13th. Task Force 58 striking Kyushu. Enemy planes closed the formation before daylight and lost 3 to the Combat Air Patrol. A Mert was splashed by CAP at 0630. Enemy planes were in the area throughout the day, but no determined attacks were made on our ships. Hecklers took up the work at dusk. May 14th, enemy aircraft remained in the area as Task Force 58 continued strikes against Kyushu. Combat Air Patrol splashed 1 bandit just after midnight. Proceeded to the picket line at dawn, firing on high-flying Zeke at 0650. Soon afterward, Combat Air Patrol shot down 2 Zekes and a Judy. They made contact with enemy planes throughout the morning, but our group was not attacked. Task Force 58 was attacked, however, with damage to the USS Enterprise. On May 19th, Commander Bernard W. Frund of the U.S. Navy was relieved as commanding officer by Lieutenant Commander Thomas C. Hart. May the 22nd. Several enemy planes were in the area after nightfall but did not press home and attack. May the 24th. Enemy planes closed the formation in the afternoon and after dark but did not attack. Combat Air Patrol got 1 Mert. May 25th. Bogies were contacted throughout the morning with the Combat Air Patrol splashing 3. No attacks on our ships, though. May the 28th. This date, Task Force 58 became a unit of 3rd Fleet and was designated as Task Force 38. That would be the changeover from Admiral Spruance back to Admiral Halsey. May the 29th through June the 1st, en route to Leyte Gulf in the Philippine Islands. June the 1st, undergoing repairs at Leyte Gulf, Philippine Islands. On the 1st of June, Commanding Officer Lieutenant Commander Thomas C. Hart was transferred to the USS Refuge because of illness, and the Executive Officer Henry F. Rodner, Jr. was appointed as temporary command. On June 16th, Lieutenant Commander E.T. Steen of the U.S. Navy assumed command. And this is part of what I was speaking of in the last episode. Unfortunately for Lieutenant Commander Hart, it was discovered that he had leukemia. Now, I am not aware as to whether or not he knew prior to this that he had this illness, but you have to understand that men were made of something different back in those days, and so it is quite possible that he knew he was sick. I don't know that he knew at the time that it was leukemia, but he was actually able to perform his duty because he ended up winning a Bronze Star for the mere 2 weeks he was on the ship during the Okinawa campaign. Men were very prone to press through and persevere a lot better than what you unfortunately might see in this day and time. But sadly, Lieutenant Commander Hart would be taken off the ship and transferred to the USS Refuge, and of course he would be taken back to the States, to San Diego, I believe, where he passed away 2 weeks later from leukemia. So very sad story there. But again, brave man, and of course our hats are off to him, Lieutenant Commander Thomas C. Hart. As we said, Henry F. Rodner, who was a lieutenant, would assume temporary command, and then 2 weeks later, on June 16th, they received their new commander, E.T. Steen. And of course, we didn't have a photograph of him on our last episode, but there you see Commander Steen there. And of course, this photo is courtesy of navesource.org. That's a great website for information if you're looking for information on a particular ship or naval actions. I recommend that website, navesource.org. And of course, as you see, Mr. Bill Gagno is the one who uploaded that photo to that website, and that photo was courtesy of him, so thank him also. Continuing with the diary, June 18th through the 19th, conducted training exercises off of Leyte Gulf, the Philippine Islands, with Desron 48. June the 20th through the 23rd, conducted training exercises off of Leyte Gulf of the Philippine Islands with Task Force 38. Now, of course, by this point in the war, things were quickly coming to an end, and the Japanese Empire was basically on its last leg. But, however, no one can question the intestinal fortitude of a Japanese warrior and their determination. And so that's something you kind of have to admire, because they were very, very brave. Although perhaps their loyalty may be misguided a little bit, but no one can question the bravery of a Japanese warrior. So anyway, that being said, they would continue to go after the fleet with vengeance, with as many planes as they had left. So here are some of the highlights going into that last month of combat. On July 10th, off of Tokyo, Combat Air Patrol shot down 2 planes over the formation in the afternoon. July 14th, we were with Task Unit 34.8.1 for the first naval bombardment of the Japanese homeland against the steel city of Kamaishi in northern Honshu. On the 24th of July, we shot down 1 Dyna splashed near the formation by Combat Air Patrol in the late afternoon. July 25th, Enemy planes in the area from late afternoon until 2000 hours. 1 Mert and 3 Graces carrying torpedoes were shot down by the Combat Air Patrol. July 28th, enemy planes were in the area at dawn and at dusk. No attacks developed, although 1 Jill was splashed by the Combat Air Patrol in the evening. July 29th through the 30th, with Task Unit 34.8.1 for night bombardment of Hamamatsu in the Honshu province. August 9th, with Task Unit 34.8.1 for the bombardment of Kamaishi, Honshu. Ships fired on a single enemy plane during retirement from the bombardment area. August 13th, many bogey contacts throughout the day. Combat Air Patrol shot down 21 Japs with no damage to our ships. August 15th, on Tonkat 2 station with Destroyer Division 96 plane homing and radar picket duty. We detected several bogeys during the dawn twilight, and our Combat Air Patrol splashed 1 Mert. At 0852, we received an all-nav number 194 message declaring the war with Japan is ended. However, at 11:30, several bogeys were reported northward. 1 Judy was shot down by Combat Air Patrol. We detected a bogey near our group at 1300 and at 1318. A Judy suicide dived on the Bullard. It missed us by 200 yards on the port quarter after having direct hits by the Bullard, the Herman, and the Black's 5-inch 38 caliber guns and 40 millimeter batteries. 3 other Japs were splashed to the north at this time by Task Force 38 Combat Air Patrol. And of course, that would have been pretty much the end of the combat part of the Bullard's duty. They would be patrolling off of Honshu with Task Force 38 and on Plane Guard Station off of Nishima, south of Sagamiwan, with the USS Flint. They went with Task Unit 30.3.2 en route to Buckner Bay at Okinawashima, and on August 31st anchored at Buckner Bay, Okinawashima, and reported for duty to Commander of the 7th Fleet. And of course, they would have patrolled around that area during the period leading up to actual surrender of the Japanese Empire, and probably would have been on patrol duty for another month or so before making her way back to the States, probably making a stop at Pearl Harbor, and then going on to San Diego, where they would begin the decommissioning process. Now, all 3 of the other ships in Destroyer Division 96, the Kidd, the Black, and the Chauncey, they were all brought out of the mothballs and brought back into service for the Korean conflict. And in fact, the Black was even brought back for Vietnam, and not completing her final cruise until 1969, when she was finally decommissioned. However, the Bullard seems to have stayed in the reserve fleet. So there's no evidence, at least that I can find in my research, that the Bullard ever served in any conflict but World War II. Now, she would remain in the reserve fleet until December of 1972, when she was stricken from the Naval Register and then sold for scrap on December 3rd of 1973, as sadly is the state for many of these old ships. As I said in a song that I wrote for my band, sailors are sentimental, but the Navy damn sure ain't. And so that's just how it is. Sailors are sentimental, and they have an attachment to these vessels. But unfortunately, when you have an over surplus of outdated ships, hard decisions have to be made. Although I don't think they're very hard for the Navy, but they can be hard for the old salts sometime. That's going to do it for our profile of the USS Bullard, and I hope you enjoy it. And we're going to be doing our next profile on the USS Black for Destroyer Division 96 in our series that we're doing on that. And I hope you're enjoying this so far. Again, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more profiles on these incredible Fletcher class destroyers. And we hope to see you next time for our episode on the USS Black. Till then, take care.